Hello! Hi, it's me, Azu, Blue Flame Guy, and all that. Have you ever wanted a game in a similar style to My Singing Monsters, but featuring a unique cast of characters? Have you ever wished that there was I'm making Fractured Mirrors into a fan game. This video is the first of hopefully many devlogs I make, and it's going to be split into 3 different sections. First, I'll talk about why I'm making this game and how I'm going about doing so. Then, I'll show you how the game looks so far and explain how I made it. And lastly, I'll chat about what's next for this project and what to expect in the future. Alright, so the why. Put simply, I've wanted to for a while and found a good opportunity. Fractured Mirrors, the project currently in focus on my channel, has an awesome cast of characters from different creators, and comes pre-built with the classic 5 elements and 5 islands that allow for an easy port to a game. This game is just the first stage of a larger goal and plan that I'm calling Project Seed, that I won't talk about too much just yet. And having a simple 5 island game with no crazy mechanics or anything is a great first run. It also means you'll be able to play it sooner, more on that at the end. I know you're about to ask, Azu, aren't the Fractured Mirrors Islands on official My Singing Monsters backgrounds? Isn't that bad? And the answer is yes. While in the Fractured Mirrors canon, these islands do take place on the Mirror Islands of MSM, the game version of this project will diverge from the canon and have its own backgrounds and other assets to keep everything fully original. Next, let's talk about the tech. Most MSM fan games use Unity, a very popular and well-known game engine that has a ton of powerful abilities, though the company that runs it has made some sketchy choices as of late. I am not using Unity and have opted to use Godot. Godot is an open source and free engine that has a very different workflow from Unity and isn't run by a huge corporation. I found that it works better for me and allows me to do some pretty cool things. One of which is a special plugin that allows me to build a custom song editor into the game engine. Alrighty, now into the juicy stuff. And again, I remind you that any assets and backgrounds made by Big Blue Bubble for My Singing Monsters are placeholders and will be swapped out for fully original artwork down the line. Got it? Okay. So, there are a few different systems that make a creature collector game like My Singing Monsters. You need to have a shop, you need to figure out how to make the song work properly, you have to save information, give goals and new islands, and all sorts of stuff. The very first thing I did before any major work was set up camera zooming and click and drag functionality, with limited success at first, but it got ironed out. Once that was done, I chose to start with the grid and movement system, since that's involved in literally everything you do in this sort of game. Using Godot's tile map feature, I created a layer of isometric tiles and painted them over my island background. My first test involved drawing tiles with a mouse, accidentally created path painting, I guess, and then a short function to check whether a box you were hovering over was marked as occupied or not. These may seem random, but it allowed me to properly figure out how to detect whether a tile is filled or not, and change a tile when I need to. Also important to set this up was a snapping to grid feature, where once you press move on something, its position sticks to grid spot. Since everything in Godot is a scene, the way I did this is to go into my monster scene and designate a special child point as the middle of a monster's front center tile. That way, when snapping to grid, I just move the monster so that the spot is in the middle of a tile. The final form of this system is actually made up of 2 different tile maps. The base layer is all either free space or occupied space, and only changes when you save a movement. The second layer is the movement layer, and displays where the selected entity, in this case our monster, is moving. The tiles under our monster are green if all the spaces below it are gray and filled, and if there's anything in the way, it's red. Canceling puts the monster back where it started, and saving updates the base grid with the new position of the moved monster. The second big thing I worked on was the song system. I actually started by creating my own Godot plugin to add a special page in Godot for editing a song and saving it to a file. If you want a video on that, let me know in the comments, because it's kind of too complicated and out of the way for this. For now, we'll focus on the in-game process. The way my editor creates song files is by listing the measure of a song where a track starts and the last measure of a track. The first thing that had to be done was converting the game's time into an actual measure clock that ticks once each measure. I took some code from the Godot reference manual to get a precise time, and then with some math, combined the BPM and time signature of the song into a seconds per measure value. Every time that value passes on the time clock from the manual, this song manager node sends out a signal that the measure has happened, including who's supposed to play what during that measure. The monsters had to get their own script that tells them, based on their monster ID and what island they're on, which audio files they should play when they get those signals. And shocker, it actually worked, like the first time, which is very unusual and not normal at all. I also made a quick little placeholder shop to get some of these lovely monsters. And you may have noticed that these monsters are glowing when their sound plays. Most MSM fan games use animation, and while animations are super cool, I can't animate very well, and there's no sprites or rigs for pretty much all the Fractured Mirrors monsters. I've taken a page from the cold equivalent Buddha's creator, Silveroshi, and I'm using glowing to indicate when a monster plays. In future projects in Project Seed, after the Fractured Mirrors game, I'll certainly look at animation, but for now I think this is pretty sweet. And that's what we've got so far. Monsters can move around, we have a shop where you can get them, and they play their song with glowing indications. There's certainly tons of work to be done, and it's a side project, so updates might take me a couple months, but I'm very proud that I was able to do this all in around a week and a half of work. Speaking of which, let's talk about the future of this project. Since there's no animations, Fractured Mirrors Islands take very little extra work besides those new backgrounds to add to this game. No promises, but I'm hoping this means I can release the first public version of the game after the YouTube release of Fractured Cold Island. Currency, monster recombination, my version of breeding, and the ability to save your game are next on the to-do list for me, so be excited for that. And in the really distant future, this work on this game is paving the way for some really, really cool things. If you have any questions or want to share your excitement for this project, join the Cobalt Complex Discord in the description. And YouTube, like and subscribe if you enjoyed and all that, yeah. This narrated devlog of sorts is something new for me, so please let me know if you enjoyed it and you want to see more stuff like this. And of course, Fractured Mirror Plant Islands triples and quad will be releasing every Friday, so stay tuned for those. We're getting up there, and I can't wait for this song to be out. See you next time!